relationship with the Seahawks. He was asked about where things stand after a controversial offseason. Here's what he said.
I would say it's stronger. I think me and Pete have gotten even closer. Okay. Pete and I, we've always had a great bond, but I think, we got to have a great heart-to-heart. Just me and Coach Carroll's relationship is stronger than ever, and I care about winning. That's what I want to do. And that's always been my focus. That's always been my goal, is to win it all.
So he tells Dan Patrick that relationship is stronger than it's ever been. Marcus, I'm intrigued by your comments. And in the notes you sent, you said, Russ ain't about that Aaron Rodgers life. What do you mean by that?
Russ had all of this stuff going on, with trades and teams that he would be interested in and all of that. And Russ never came out and made definitive statements, man. It was breadcrumbs. You saw him walk up to the podium and tell Pete Carroll how much we love each other, see we get along. Man, Russ was going to be a Seattle Seahawk this season. And I know we got up in arms about, well, look at what Russ is saying. Listen, you know me. I don't get on the roller coaster. Your actions and your words are the things I respond to. And when your words full of BS, I ain't responding to them. And that's all Russ was doing. He was talking, interjecting himself into the conversation with all of the quarterback movement this offseason. But the bottom line is this. Russell Wilson is an elite quarterback. The Seattle Seahawks have him under contract. They made moves, and he's surrounded by really good players. And it doesn't seem like anything in Seattle can't be remedied based on what they've been able to do. They brought in offensive linemen. He talked about not being protected. He has DK and Tyler Lockett on the outside. Russ is fine. Russ ain't going nowhere. And Russ is exactly where I thought he would be, in good graces, and everything is well in Seattle. Russell Wilson, the politician, got what he needed to get done.
Okay, and so Mike Tannenbaum, these kinds of ruffling, of feathers or things that you're accustomed to. How does this get handled in your experience?
You bring in the agent and the player. You say, hey, look, we're going to deal with this next. You pick a date. You say March 18th. We're going to get in a room. We're going to have an emergency order of chicken parmesan. It's going to be voluminous and comforting. We're going to break bread, and we're going to air out our grievances, and we're going to solve problems.
How exactly do you land on chicken parmesan? Just of all the things that you might serve.
For those two reasons, it's voluminous and it's comforting, and it's an emergency order. It's on the table as soon as they walk in. You break bread, and then you air your grievances. But in all seriousness, when you
I think all seriousness has gone out the window, Mike.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah. When you tell an agent, we're going to deal with it on this date, it gives you credibility, and now you can go play the season, and then you get in a room and you try to figure it out afterwards.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remain focused.
Hey, yo, G.
Yeah.
G, maybe Jeremy know what the hell voluminous mean, but I need Mike T to explain to me what the definition of that word is.
It's just a lot of food,
what the hell
right?
it mean, Mike T?
Yeah. It's a hearty meal.
That's exactly
voluminous?
Right.
It's a hearty repast.
Hearty meal, I got you.
Very quickly, Jeremy, if I could, I don't know how to follow that except to ask, what are you hearing about what we should really believe about where things stand between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks?
Well, the relationship is better. Is it voluminous enough to be better for multiple years? That's what we don't know, because there are some people around the league in certain circles who think that Seattle might not be long for Russell Wilson because there have been trade rumors multiple times over multiple years. We're talking about the Cleveland Browns a few years back and the Chicago Bears this offseason. I spoke to one high-ranking NFL official who said, look, it just seems like there's something going on there. I just don't get the sense they are sold on him long term. Now, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have had multiple good conversations via phone and in person about how to solve things. And I was told Carroll heard Russell Wilson's frustrations about the offensive line, how to get better. They tried to address some of those things. So all is good right now. Next year might be some reassessing.
All right, I need you to look into the menu. I need to know what it is they ate when they sat down and had that first meeting. If it was chicken parmesan, then you're a genius. In the meantime, let's get to our new favorite feature. It is called And Here's Why, because Mike Tannenbaum says that all the time. So our first one, Zach Wilson is your favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Yes, Greeny, your New York Jets, and here's why. They have a really good offensive line. When you think about Mekhi Becton, they drafted Elijah Vera Tucker, and they just signed Morgan Moses. They also drafted Elijah Moore. He's going to be a guy they could give long handoff to. They're putting Zach Wilson in a position to be successful. I think he is the absolute front runner for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Secondly, I think the New England Patriots have a real chance of making the playoffs this year, and here's why. Of all the teams, They had the best offseason in terms of addressing weaknesses. You look at skill players from Kendrick Bourne, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, the other side of the ball. They signed Matt Judon. If Stephon Gilmore comes back and they address his contract, they will be the one team that will make the playoffs this year after missing out last year. Lastly, Dak Prescott has the best chance of challenging Patrick Mahomes in terms of being the MVP, and here is why. Last year, Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, Zach Martin, combined Greeny missed 36 games. Those are 3 great offensive linemen. When you combine that with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and of course Zeke Elliott, this should be an offense that is absolutely indefensible. So if those 3 linemen stay healthy, this is a legitimate frontline MVP candidate that should be neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes.
Now that is an interesting one. Marcus, let me come to you, my favorite former Cowboy. Do you agree that Dak Prescott is the biggest threat to Patrick Mahomes to be the league MVP this year?
Yeah, I think he's up there, G. I don't think it's far-fetched. And it's a lot of it has to do with what Tannenbaum just said, but it starts with protection. And I also think Zeke Elliott and this offensive line is going to help in that regard as well. We saw numbers that Dak was putting up last year before he got injured, and I don't want to get carried away because a lot of those games became a bunch of just hang it up there fest and see if guys can make plays. But I think Dak is in a great situation. Him and Kellen Moore has worked together. But I believe Dallas getting back to being able to establish the run is the thing that's going to help Dak Prescott the most in all of this MVP talk. Because when you start talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and you got 2 differing conversations going on. You got the defensive side with Dan Quinn, whether they'll fix it. The conversation on the offensive side of the ball is, if the offensive line holds up, this could be the best offensive unit in the NFL or top 3. And Dak is going to have a lot to do with that. So I agree with Mike T on that point. He brought me back from that first point he made about the damn, offensive rookie of the year.
Dak, by the way, is 18-1 to win the MVP with the same odds as Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford. So Vegas doesn't think it's completely out of bounds either. What do you think, Jeremy Fowler?
Guys, we just talked about Russell Wilson and chicken parm and voluminous and all that. Russell Wilson's never won an MVP. He's still a consensus top 5 quarterback. To me, he is a bigger threat than Dak Prescott. I think he's going to have his spite season after all the consternation we saw in Seattle, similar to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay the year before.
All right, that's an interesting
choice.
Well,
it's fine. Jeremy.
Go ahead, Marcus. Yeah.
Jeremy, it's fine because Greeny thinks that Ryan Fitzpatrick going to be in the MVP conversation at the end of the year.
Yes.
So we can pick whoever the hell we want to pick to be in the MVP conversation at this point, I guess.
See, Greeny doesn't
we
think
need that.
Greeny thinks
energy.
Chase Young is going to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and the Washington football team is going to be. See, again, there's always the Cowboys. June and July, they're phenomenal. These are their best months. Wait until we get to September and October, and then Washington is going to show you.
Who do you trust? One game, Dak Prescott or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I trust that Washington football team in total more than I trust that it is not just the quarterback, even though we generally make it out to be. Meanwhile, tonight, there's only one game on the schedule coming off the All-Star break, and we've got it. The AL East leading Red Sox starting a big 4-game series in the Bronx against the 4th-place Yankees. Our coverage starts at 7 Eastern on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app. One app, one tap. Coming up, after a block party in Milwaukee in Game 4, Giannis and company square the NBA Finals. Who's the favorite now? Big Perk and Legs on the way. Jalen will join us this morning as well. And look who's live next. Oh,